Welcome back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, my name's Morgan and I love talking all things reality TV. We are currently in the midst of what I have dubbed Shark Fest, where I am trying to quickly catch up to where we are currently in the Shark Tank season, so I am posting videos back to back to back, catching up. And on this third day of Shark Myths, I can't even get the day right, and on this fourth day of Shark Fest, we are gathered here together to celebrate Season 15, Episode 4 of Shark Tank. Our sharks for Episode 3 are Barbara, Kevin, Lori, Mark, and Robert. It is our first time this season having a classic tank with just OG sharks and no guest sharks, so saucy. I don't know who I'm going to put in the middle of the graphic. Should I show favoritism that way? Moving on to the businesses, our first pitch of the night is PaddleSmash. Entrepreneurs Tim and Scott walked into the tank looking for $250,000 for 10% of their new sport that's a combination of pickleball and spikeball. So pickleball you've probably heard of because it's getting super popular right now. I've never played it. The best way that I saw it described on the internet was kind of a nice mix of tennis and then like tabletop tennis. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I've never played, so I don't really understand it. On the other hand, Spikeball is actually an old Shark Tank product. It was on Season 6, Episode 29, and he ended up making a deal with Damon John for $500,000 for 20%. Spikeball, he describes it as a mix between volleyball and foursquare. So, this new game, I would guess, is volleyball, foursquare, and pickleball. All in one.
People always ask me what's the one deal I missed. It was Spikeball.
So I'll have some video example, but pretty much you have a little court that has a net around it, and you have little paddles, and you have a ball. And I don't know all the specific rules, but you hit it into the center, and there are different rules to play after that. So for starters, we find out Tim and Scott didn't actually come up with this. They were introduced to the inventor Joe Bingham, and since Tim and Scott have over 25 years of experience in the toy and game industry, they decided they wanted to make PaddleSmash their next big venture together. So they licensed the rights, and now Joe just receives a royalty of 5% of the net sales. So obviously the sharks want to know how involved Joe still is. Is he just a silent partner? And the guys give this answer that just makes me so jealous of Joe's life. I want to be, Joe's living my dreams.
Joe gets fun update calls.
Fun update calls.
And then he gets a quarterly royalty check, and he's always very excited.
Fun.
Joe should also be an excellent example to some of the people who come in on Shark Tank and don't want to license their product. Instead, they just want to keep toiling away, when instead they could do what Joe does. Sell it and let somebody pay you for your great idea while you take a beach vacation with your family, or like I said in the first episode, get a hobby. It's time to get into some numbers. It costs the guys $55 to make PaddleSmash, and they retail it for $200.
Have we sold any? That's a good question.
And the answer to that is they've been in business 9 months, and in those 9 months, they've done $700,000 worth of sales. But do we think they're profitable? They're break even, which is better than losing millions of dollars, which is sometimes the best we can ask for when watching the show. On to one of our next standard Shark Tank questions. What do the guys need the money for? They say they need it for inventory and social media marketing. Also very standard answers to give in the tank. Kevin is immediately interested and the first shark to make an offer, which isn't surprising because if you know my episode last year doing the data, Kevin makes the most offers. It doesn't mean he makes the most deals, but he is always trying. He says the product is simple and it works, and he offers the guys $250,000 for 20%. Then we find out Mark and Robert own a pickleball team together. Like this, they also say it like it's just so casual. And I just remember watching and being like, huh? So Mark and Robert agree that this would be a good business to invest in, considering they're already in the pickleball space, and they offer the guys $250,000 for 20% as well.
Would you be willing to do?
No.
So they try countering $500,000 for 20%, but Mark and Robert just aren't interested. They feel like they'll be a great asset, and they've made a great offer to the guys. Kevin, overhearing all this, says, you know what? I'll bring my offer down to 15%. But the guys really want Mark and Robert. So then they tried to get Mark and Robert to go down to 15%.
Didn't Kevin offer you 15%?
He did.
Well, there is Kevin.
We love Lori, our observant queen. So then Lori's trying to be like, well, if you really want 15%, then just go with Kevin. And then Barbara, once again, just like she was doing in episode 3 with dating with Blaine and the glove wrap thing, was being like, no, you need Mark. Kevin's not the right partner for you. You need Mark. I don't know what Mark paid her this season, but she's on Mark's team. It is hilarious. To be fair, she doesn't just single out Mark when she's saying it. She says these guys, but I don't know. Then Mark starts being like, it's obvious you guys just don't want to do it. And he starts, trying to back out of it. And the guys luckily jump back in and take the deal with Robert and Mark for $250,000 for 20%. But it was a close one. And then a classic Shark Tank staple. The sharks have to go try out the product after the entrepreneurs leave, and PaddleSmash is no different. We get a great clip of them trying to play. Just always funny, always a good time for everyone.
All right, ready?
Good setup. Get the other ball. Get another ball.
Game over.
Final thoughts. I mean, I haven't tried it, but if I was somewhere, like out at a barbecue or whatnot, and this was presented to me, I think it'd be fun. I'm not the kind of person who would buy an expensive yard activity like this, I don't think. Maybe one day I'll get into that phase of my life. I'm not quite there yet, but I don't know. If you've played it, I would definitely love to hear from y'all. When I watched videos of this versus, when I was watching videos of this versus Spikeball, personally, Spikeball looked a little more fun to me. But this looked more like something I'd actually be able to play and not be bad at. So, pros and cons. Moving on to our second pitch, Fairy Tale Pet Care. Entrepreneurs Kelly and Alana are looking for $75,000 for 10% of their wedding dog sitter. Yes, you heard me right. It is a dog sitter that allows you to have your dog at your wedding. Pretty much, you're hiring this person as your dog's plus one. That's what they call it. And they are a person who literally will just watch your dog during your wedding, but then your dog can be there and be in the pictures and all that. They'll even walk the dog down the aisle if that's something you want. So to have somebody have your dog at your wedding, it's $600 for one pet and 3 hours of care. For any additional pet, it's an extra $200 because they require one handler per pet, and then additional hours are $100 per hour. But that's not the only way they're making money. They have also chosen to franchise this business since they can't be everywhere with just the two of them. Their franchising fee is $12,500 per territory. Additionally, they pay a 9% royalty of gross sales. So including themselves, they have 14 territories, which equals 4 locations. And if this confuses you, that's okay, because it confused me at first. But what I assume is that one location picks up multiple territories that are close enough to it that it can cover them. I would have just assumed a territory was a location, but that's what I have come to the conclusion of. So there are 14 territories they're in, which equals 4 locations. Their flagship location is in Tampa, Florida, and last year it did $123,000 in sales, and it was profitable, $66,000, and their franchises did $80,000 in sales last year.
How did you get to franchise when your sales aren't even $250,000?
So with the numbers being what they are, Lori is going to want to say her famous line of, it's a great business for you, but just not investable for me. But she's beaten to the punch by Robert, who steals her line and goes out. Then Lori jumps in agreeing with Robert, and Mark also jumps on that train, and they're all 3 out. Their biggest thing about the numbers isn't even necessarily the sales, but just more about the ability to really scale this and what it can even eventually cap out as. Of course, when you bring up scalability, they bring up that they're franchising, and that's a way they're scaling, but the Shark's point really is the market for this, how big the market is, how many people actually want to use this, and that being the limit to how much it can scale. However, not all hope is lost because the women still have 2 sharks who are very interested. Barbara wants to know their process for picking franchisees. She references how well Cousin's Maine Lobster has done since they started franchising. She asks for how many applications they get to franchise, how many do they actually accept. They say of the 100 inquiries they've gotten so far, they've only accepted the 4 that they currently have. I hate to get back on this topic, but in my notes, it has that sentence that I just said, that the only franchisees they've accepted are the 4 they currently have. So I went back and watched it again, and that is what she says. And then I go to their website, and they only have 4 locations. So are they counting themselves as a franchise? Is there one that they were maybe working out that didn't end up working? I'm still confused about this. That's fine though. This is just a me issue, I'm sure. Barbara loves their answer for how they're franchising. She loves that they're taking it slow and not just trying to push a bunch of them out there and hope for the best. She also thinks the market for dog lovers who need a job is huge, so she makes them an offer of $75,000 for 25%. Kevin's also interested. We know he loves the wedding business, and while he's worried about how small the business is, he decides to make an offer anyway of $75,000 for 33.33%. Give away more equity and be stuck with Kevin, or give away less equity and have Barbara. So the women try countering Barbara for $75,000 for 15%.
Oh, no. I'm going to put a heck of a lot of work into this because I know how to do franchising better than anyone I've ever met, okay? I know how to qualify people. I know how to build a team of the franchisees. I know the cost of getting people together, how to do it properly. I just know it inside and out, and I've done so well with franchisee. I think I'm a catch.
Even after giving a great speech about knowing her worth, the entrepreneurs try again to counter $75,000 for 20%. Once again, though, Barbara says no, but she finds it in her heart to try to meet in the middle with them, and she offers them the $75,000 for 22%. And they end up making a deal with Barbara for $75,000 for 22%. Final thoughts, I definitely think Barbara was the best partner for them because franchising probably is how they're going to end up making their most money, and Barbara has proven herself that she knows the franchising business, so definitely the best shark for them to get, and they got her. I also definitely get it. I get there's a market for it. My dog, however much I want him at my wedding, I think he would be so incredibly unhappy. I don't think he could stand with a person. So I don't think this is something I would use, but I get it, and I would do it if my dog wouldn't lose his whole mind the entire time. He would be screaming for me and his dad. Great idea in theory, but he just can't. That's a him problem. It's not a this business problem. Moving on to the third and probably my favorite pitch of the night, Monosuit. Mia walked into the tank looking for $150,000 for 5% of her jumpsuits that are made from recycled ocean plastic, and on top of that, have a little zipper in the back to make it easier to go to the bathroom. Before we can literally talk about anything else, we have to talk about Mia's entrance.
Next up is a sustainable way to be fashion forward.
So Mia comes in and proceeds to do this choreographed song and dance explaining her business and the recycling and all that. And it goes on for, I kid you not, a minute and a half. I desperately wish I could play the whole thing. I don't think YouTube will allow it. So I highly encourage you to go watch this whole song because I love her, honestly. I'm obsessed with her. I'm not even gonna pretend.
Hey, I'm Mia. Let me introduce the #1 jumpsuit, Monosuit. Ladies love jumpsuits, but the nature's call is drama. Half naked in a restroom, such a mental trauma. I turn ocean plastics into Monosuit.
So like I said earlier, one of the big things is that these jumpsuits are made from recycled ocean waste. It's actually her own technology she uses to turn the waste into the jumpsuits. She says she considers herself a fashion and a technology business. It's not just jumpsuits though, they also have sneakers and other accessories that go with the jumpsuits. On average, the jumpsuits cost them $60 to make and retail around $290. The jumpsuits are actually 70% of her business, and last year they did $245,000 in sales. Editing work in here, so I didn't get the photos of the products until after I filmed, and when I saw her website, it just was completely different from what I assumed it was going to be. And I really wish she would have brought in a greater variety of the different pieces she has, because I just feel like it would have done her good. It would have changed my opinion on some things, so just throwing that out there. We didn't really get an answer if it was profitable, but I would assume not, based on the next questions we get into. The sharks then end up asking her if she's raised any other money, and we find out in 2018 she raised $2 million through angel investors at a $12 million valuation.
From angel investors.
Wow.
Of course, this leads us to the next obvious question.
Where did the $2 million go?
She says it was used to help develop the technology to turn the ocean waste into recycled material to make the jumpsuits. She also talks about how she wants to continue developing technology to make this a circular thing where people buy a monosuit from them and then eventually return it to them to be recycled and start the process all over again. The sharks are obviously not pleased about having the $2 million raised, and you can tell they're just not super happy that she doesn't have just one simple streamlined business, that she does seem to have all her hands in all these different places. And one by one, the sharks start to go out. They do give us multiple different reasons, though, instead of all just picking one thing and jumping on it, so points for that. So Roberts is the one that's the most confusing to me. I guess confusing's not the word. What he said word for word is that he thought she was bringing out a beautiful workout product to rival Lululemon, and then he was upset that it wasn't workout gear. It wasn't just that, though. He also didn't like that she, is all over the place doing different things. He called her a bouncing ball. That will be a common theme throughout all the sharks' reasonings for going out. But nonetheless, he goes out. Barbara also agrees about being upset that it's not a Lululemon rival product, which again, I just think is such a weird thing. Maybe that's just me. I just don't get being upset that it's not workout gear. If you understand, let me know in the comments. But she also worries that she wouldn't be hyper-focused on making money with just this one outstanding product. She's worried that she's going to be one of those entrepreneurs who's just spreading herself so thin that they can't focus on one thing and make it work. So she's also out. Kevin also joins on the bandwagon of saying it's all over the place, and specifically says that she just needs to focus on the jumpsuit because he thinks it's a great product, but with her not being willing to just focus on the one thing, he's also out. Lori really likes the designs and the products, but she doesn't think $150,000 is really going to do anything for Mia's business. She's going to need a lot more money to do everything she wants to do with her business, and Lori just doesn't think this is the right kind of investment for her at the moment. So she's out as well. Then there's Mark, who says it's difficult because at the end of the day, she's running 3 different businesses: a technology business, an eco-friendly business, and a fashion business. And all of those businesses are super expensive and require a hyper focus. And he just doesn't see a way to pull all those different pieces together in a way that's affordable and makes sense. So unfortunately, he is also out. So unfortunately, Mia leaves the tank without a deal, but she leaves on a note that just continues to prove my love for her.
I was a little bit disappointed that people are continued focusing only on making money. But making money is good, but making money and making the planet cleaner and making good for the planet is much more important and big thing.
Final thoughts. I mean, what Mia said on her way out is absolutely true. People do care more about making money than doing anything good for the planet. That is just a fact that can't be disputed. That's real. I do get why none of the sharks decided to invest on like that sort of level. It does feel a little all over the place. Honestly, I'm on kind of the opposite team of Kevin. Kevin thinks she should just focus on the jumpsuits. I think she should just focus on the technology of making the ocean wastes into different fashion pieces, or even work on licensing it to designers. I don't really know how the fashion world works, so I don't know how that necessarily would work, but if I were her, that's the piece I would focus on and make the jumpsuits the side hustle, because, I mean, that's the bigger thing to me. On to our 4th and final pitch of the night. Buena Papa Fry Bar. Husband and wife James and Joanna are asking for $400,000 for 7% of their loaded fry bar. Here's some examples of the different fries they have. It's all just different Latin-inspired flavors that they've taken and made into loaded fries. This isn't just one little fry bar stand, though. They have 4 locations. They have their first 2 locations that they open pretty close to each other. a third location that's inside of an arena, and then at the time they were filming, they were opening a fourth location in Wynwood, Miami. But that is not all, because on top of all that, they just recently started franchising. In their first month of selling franchises, they have already sold 4 of them. As far as the fries themselves go, their margins are around 72%. An average cost to make them is $3.50, and the average sale price is $13.50. But like Fairy Tale Pet Care, they're not only making money by selling a product, they also make money when they sell a franchise. Their initial franchise fee is $29,500, and then on top of that, there's an 8% royalty. However, 2% of it is used for marketing. They started the business in July of 2021, and in their first year, they did $1.1 million in sales, and yes, we do have a profitable food company. Pow, pow, pow! They started the business in July of 2021, and their first year, they did $1.1 million in sales, and yes, we have a profitable food company. Pow, pow! They took those profits from the first year to open their second location, and last year, they grossed $200,000, and that was after paying themselves a combined total of $120,000. This leads Robert to ask the age-old question, what are you looking for in a shark? They say they want a strategic partner to help them build up this brand to be a huge, nationwide, well-known thing. They also talk about how it's hard to get banks to lend them money because the company is so new, so they've been having to take all their profits and invest them into the new businesses, which they say isn't healthy.
Why is that not healthy?
Their reasoning that it's not healthy is because it's sucking up all their cash flow.
But do you have any debt today?
They say they only have $70,000 in debt, and Robert pretty much says it's just a question of, do they want to grow super fast and end up with a bunch of debt they have to pay back, or just roll out more organically and slowly and have less debt? I think the second thing is the better option, and so does Robert, but who's to say? They say their biggest concern as a business is speed. They want to beat anybody else out who might want to get into this market. Then the sharks all start to go out. They all give different reasons, but at the end of the day, I just don't think they liked the answers they got, even though that's not really what any of them said. Specifically in regards to the franchising, the sharks definitely get nervous when people are putting out a bunch of stores just back to back to back, but I think they're also tired of telling people that maybe. I don't know, that's just my own little conspiracy theory. For example, Barbara goes out because she says she doesn't think they need anybody. She says they're the whole package, and if they just keep doing what they're doing, they'll progress nicely, so she goes out. But really, what she's saying is what you want to do is a terrible idea. Just keep doing what you're doing. Hopefully by not giving you this money, you won't just push out a bunch of stores. Just keep doing what you're doing, please, for the love of God. Who knew we needed a shark translator? Then we have Kevin, who reminds us he's on a health journey and gives his famous line about wanting to be able to represent the product and say he likes the product and stand behind it. And he can't do it with his new current lifestyle, so he's out. Lori gives the more direct version of what Barbara said, saying that she thinks they're running the business the right way right now, and that they shouldn't be trying to speed run it out there. It'll just cause more problems in the end. So she is also out. Then there's Mark, who says that owning a restaurant by itself is already a super hard business, but adding a franchise on top of that just makes it 10 times harder. He also calls franchises a babysitting business, and he says he doesn't want to be in that babysitting business, so he too is out. But they still have Robert, who says he loves every single thing about the business except the valuation.
Okay, you're making $120,000 a year. How is it worth $5 million?
James says that once all 4 stores are open, that plus their franchises will make gross sales of $6 million. So he's projecting this on future earnings.
Well, I'm valuing it off what it's worth.
I got you.
Today.
So deciding to base the valuation on what it's worth today, Robert makes them an offer of $400,000 for 20%.
Can we counter offer you?
That's the beauty of Shark Tank. You can do whatever you want.
They try countering $400,000 for 15%, but Robert shoots it down. They say, let's meet halfway and do it for 17%, but Robert's still not having it.
400,000, 20%. Let's go.
18%.
20%.
Finally, Joanna squeezes out a 19%, and they end up making a deal with Robert for $400,000 for 19%. Final thoughts. I mean, it looks delicious. That's number 1. If it comes near me, I will be trying it. That's opinion number 1. Second to that, and probably more important than that, I definitely agree with the sharks that this is something they should just take slow. it's been proven time and time again, if you just rush to put stuff out, whether it be franchises, whether it be honestly anything in life, it just doesn't turn out well. When you're rushing like that, you end up making mistakes that end up affecting so many other parts of your business, where it would have been so much easier just to work out all the kinks in one location and then build on something that you were 100% positive works. And it's like, yeah, they did do really good sales their first year, but it feels like they just started opening too soon. I don't know if the amount of time that they did between the first store and the second store, I don't even know that exact time frame because they don't say it, but I just don't feel like, from how it sounds, that it was enough time to really work every single thing out and know what they had was something they could pass on to other people that would build and grow. And I could be wrong about that, but that's just my own personal opinion and soapbox on all that. And that's a wrap on episode 4, season 15 of Shark Tank. Are there any products from this episode that you want to try? Will you forever have the Monosuit song playing on a loop in your head? Let me know all that and more in the comments, and until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.